Hello, this is Patrick from XPression, and I'd like to show you how to build a pie chart inside of XPression using Visual Logic. What I have on screen right now is an example of a pie chart, and you can see that the pie chart is put together with these numbers on the left column. So for example, if I change the 80 to 60, you see the percentages change. Pretty straightforward. Well, I'm going to build you one from scratch here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my scene manager, and I'm going to add a new scene, clicking on the new scene button. I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to call it Patrick Pie Chart. And I'm going to drag it up to the top of my scene manager just so we have it here. Now, the way that it works is using two common types of elements. I'm using text blocks, so I'm going to go ahead and create some text objects. So I've got text 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 5 items in here, and I'm going to show you the easy way to spread these out also. So I've got text 5 selected in my object manager. I'm going to come over to its transform, and I'm going to slide it down a little bit using the Y value. I'm going to come back over to my object manager, and I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to go back up to my toolbar menu, and I'm going to choose the distribute objects vertically function. I've clicked on that. I'm going to come in here to object number 1. I'm going to put some text in here. I'm going to put a number value. I'm going to put in 30. I'm going to come down to text 2. I'm going to put in 75. Nope, not 754, but 75. I'm going to come down to the third text object, and I'm going to put in 44. I'm going to come down to the fourth one. I'm going to put in 66. I'm going to come down to the last one and put in 22. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, big deal. Well, these numbers are going to come in helpful later as we start to put the rest of this together. Now, the way that we make our pie chart is using cylinder geometry. So I'm going to come over to the object library, and I'm going to select from the primitives functions. I'm going to select the cylinder. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to this object inspector, and I'm going to go to the cylinder options. I'm going to change the length considerably here, and you can see I'm going to make this a little skinnier, and I'm going to make it a lot bigger. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to transform, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees on Y, so I'm looking at the front of the object. I'm going to come down here to cylinder, and I'm going to change the name from cylinder 1 to pie 1. I'm going to use my keyboard. I'm going to press Control C and then Control V. So I've got 5 pieces of pie, and I've got 5 text labels. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply some materials. So I'm going to choose pie 1. I'm going to go to materials. I'm going to select all of my materials because I want them all to be the same. First color I'm going to choose is going to be red. And I've selected all my materials so that I put the same thing on all the pieces. My next color for pie 2, I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to choose all the layers by choosing all the materials. I'm going to choose the color blue. I'm going to choose pie 3. I'm going to select all the materials. I'm going to add green. I'm going to come to pie 4, select all the material sides, and I'm going to add in cyan. And I'm going to come to pie 5, select all the material surfaces, and I'm going to add in yellow. I believe I haven't used that one yet, so I'm going to step through. I've got red, blue, green, cyan, and yellow. Great. Now, here's the next trick I'm going to do. I have my virtual frame buffer so I can see what I'm working with. I'm going to open up Visual Logic so that I can see what I've got, and I'm going to move this over a little bit. So, and click on the Visual Logic panel, and let's revisit what we've got in Visual Logic. On the left side is my object block area. On the right side is my function block area. What I want to do is I'm going to do some basic math here. In order to make a pie chart, I have to look at all the text values. I add them up, then I divide them by the total number, and that equals each section of the pie once I divide it by 360. Multiply it by 360. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start on this. First thing I'm going to do is go to my scene objects in the object block, and I'm going to find my text 1. I'm going to find text. I'm going to drag that onto my Visual Logic panel. I'm going to try and squeeze all this in here so it's going to be a little tight. I'm going to find text 2's text value and add that onto my block here. I'm going to go and minimize that, open up text 3, bring its text value on the panel here. I'm going to go ahead and find text 4, and I'm going to find its text value, and I'm going to go to text 5, and I'm going to open up and find its text value. I've put all that out on my interface. What I want to do next is I want to add them up. So I'm going to go to my function blocks, and I'm going to find math, and I'm going to choose add. Now here's a quick reminder. On a function block, on the left side is an input, on the right side is an output. So if you see, if I touch the little right green dot, I see all the different numbers here. I want to add them up. So I'm going to grab the output of text block 1 and put it to the first input or base of my add block. I'm going to take the output of text 2. I'm going to take the output of text 3. I'm going to take the output of text 4. I'm going to take the output of text 5. And I've got all this together, and mathematically they add up to 237. Now the next thing I have to do is I have to divide all those. So I'm going to go back over into my math function block, and I'm going to take divide, and I'm going to bring that in here, and I've got to do this 5 times. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the value of text 1, and I'm going to make that my base, and I have to divide it by my output. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to take a new divide block for section number 2 of my pie, and I'm going to take text 2, and again it gets divided by the same item, which is the output. I'm going to do another divide for pie piece number 3. I'm going to take that number and divide it by my add. I'm going to grab another divide block, and this is for number 4. Put it together, and again it gets divided by the additional block, the add block value, and here's my 5th piece, and I'm going to take my number, put that in there, and grab the output of my add block, and I've got them all divided. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. They're all divided by the total, which is 237. Now I need to take that exact same structure, and I'm going to multiply it by 360. And I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to click this, click the value for multiply. I'm going to change it to 360 because that's the amount of degrees that are in a full circle. And I know I need 5 of them, so I'm just going to take it, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to Control V. And I've got 5 of them pasted down here. I'll move one down, move one down, move one down, and move one down. Move this one back up. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take that value, and I'm going to bring it in and connect it to base. And you notice real quick, if I have text 1 divided by 237 multiplied by 360, I get a value of 45. So that's the percent, or the amount of radius that it's going to show me, the degrees of my pie. So I'm going to put all these together, and you can see that I've got some simple connections. It's fairly straightforward. Now, for the sake of our exercise, I'm going to move these over here so I have some screen space available. And again, I'm just going to draw a rectangular box around them and just move them over a little bit. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to set my pie where they start. And my first piece of pie is going to start at the top at 0. So I'm going to choose a value block, and I'm going to set that value as 0 and leave it there. And I'm going to go over to my scene objects. Again, I'm going to find pi, and I'm going to find its start angle here. I'm going to put that out, and I'm going to find its end angle, and I'm going to connect my value of 0 at the pi's start, and I'm going to take the end value and get it from the multiplier of my text 1 divided by the entire base, then multiplied by 360. And by the way, that would have been 45.56, rounded off. We're going to leave that alone. Now, the last thing we need to do is I need to add all these pieces together to get to my next steps, and you'll see why in a second. So I'm going to take this first block, and I'm going to take the total degrees here and the total degrees here, and you'll see why in a second, because I need that information to do my next piece of pi. So I'm going to go to pi 2, find its start angle, and I'm going to find its end angle. And before I do anything else, I'm going to come back over to my scene here, and I'm going to put the output online because you're going to start to see this populate. It's going to be kind of fun. I'm going to take my end block here. I'm going to make my end equal that number, and my start is this same number that ended my first piece of pie, starts my second, and that's the way we're going to continue on. The pie before is driving what happens for the next one. So my third piece of pie needs to have the value of the first chunk, and the second chunk, and the third chunk. And I come back over and I find my piece of pie for number 3. I want to find my start angle for pie 3 and put that out there. I'm going to put my end angle for pie 3 out here. My end of pie 3, or pie 2 I should say, is the start of pie 3. I put my end out there. I'm going to bring out another add block, and I'm going to drag the connectors for 1, 2, 3, and 4. I need the pie start and end. Start angle for number 4. And the end point there, the start point here. And now we're to the last add block, and this is all going to start to take shape, and you'll see all this work out here. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab the output of my first block, my second block, my third block, and my fourth block, and my fifth block. I need pie start, and I need pie end, and the start of 5 is the same as the end of 4. And you notice as soon as I did that, my pie chart just jumped up and showed me all the values. So now there's a lot going on here, but it's not nearly as complex as you think. Let's go back and look at the graphic for a minute, and we'll come back to this visual logic. I'm going to move this out of our way, and if I change my value for my first item to, let's say, 500. I'm going to change my second block to 400, my third block to 300, my fourth one to 200, and my last one to 100. And you can see each block is different size than the previous one exponentially. Also, what's interesting here, I can do these randomly, obviously. So if I put 200 in here, and I put 100 here, and I put 400 here, or I can also, if I put 0 in the last block, you're going to watch that yellow is going to disappear. If I put 0 in the cyan block, also it will disappear. If I put a really small number in that green, and I put a reasonably large number in the blue and the red, you see that what I have is really what's left of those pi numbers that are showing, and the ones that are entered 0 don't really factor in. Now let's visit back to visual logic again and understand why. I'm going to put my virtual output over here and choose my visual logic again. Here's what I've got. These are my text block values. So I'm taking text 1 and all these different items, 1 through 5, I'm adding them up, and they make a divider block. And what I'm doing is I'm dividing text 1 by the total number that I have in all of those values. Then I multiply it times 360, and that's what indicates the section of pi. That'll tell me that particular dimension for that piece of pie that I have there out of 360 degrees. So as I step through these, you can see where all these particular values of pi are coming from. Moving back further to the right, what you're going to see here is I've got the value where they start. This is telling me the ending position, and the end of one is also the start of the next. And that's how I've added all these particular pieces up. So you've just seen how to make a pie chart in XPression using visual logic. Now, let me get this virtual output out of the way. All these input fields that you have here, these can be controlled by typing things in the sequencer. So you could put them available to you in here by dragging them in, and you see all the fields will show up. You could also go ahead and you could go back into XPression and maybe make all these part of data link. You could link them to Excel, you could link them to an XML file, you can link them to a text file. You have all the different choices here. You can also make them respond to input fields on a MOS template so that you can use them on a MOS workflow in addition to what you're seeing here inside of the sequencer. So you have a lot of different ways to use them all. You may go ahead and hide these values so that they don't show up on screen, because I don't think anybody really needs to see them. They're just input values for you to know about. And once I know where that value is, I can always go back and change the number. So if I come back over into the sequence side and I work with them, you can see the values don't show anymore, but I can change the numbers. So I can change this one to 200. You see the chart change. I change this one to 175. Actually, that's 160, 175. I change this one to 100. I change this one to 150. You can also calculate all these things to work on different percentages and things like that of different pieces of information. So you have a lot of opportunities here on how to work with this particular tool. It's just a basic pie chart. Build your scene, build your animations to go with them, use transition logic, make things happen. Enjoy, have fun, but this is just a basic pie chart.